This is some film I took this morning of the London Surrey Classic, so I hope you like bikes because you're going to see a lot of them. So I got up early on Sunday morning and I cycled all the way from Dorking up to Leith Tower and just down to the main road here, which this is the top of the Leith Hill climb at 250 metres. So it took me about an hour to cycle, and I mountain biked up. So it took me an hour to get here. And by the time I got here, it was about 9:15, just after. And this what you're seeing here is the kind of like the top end riders starting to come through. So they're making it look easy. So this is the highest point of the race. So I'm starting at the top of the climb, and I'm going to walk down, and I'll talk you through it, and I'll show you that it's really quite nasty and quite an unpleasant climb. So all these riders are just coming up, they've just crested at the top here. So that you see there, that crest there, once you go down, that's quite a steep incline. And if you're coming up, psychologically, it's terrible. So once you get here, things ease up, and then it's a nice downhill back to the A25 and then on to Westcott and Dorking. And as I was walking down, it was just getting busier and busier. And I was actually there for over 3 hours, basically. It just went on and on and on. It's just bike after bike, riders and just endless. I've never seen so many. Yeah, you see here, it shows how steep it is. And, the people make it look really easy. I've done this ride from Dorking and Cold Harbour many times, and I just pray for this little bit to be over because it's a real killer. I don't think I mentioned that there's 20,000 people riding this ride this morning, and they've got to get round before the professionals ride in the afternoon. So I was reading they've got a cut-off time of 9 hours to do the 100-mile ride. And I've done about a dozen of these things, but this is the first one, but obviously I haven't done this one. And I normally take about 8 hours 20, 8 hours 30, and the rides I do, they make you stop for 30 minutes at the 50-mile point. Now here, I think there was quite a lot of stopping points, but there was no official, you could just go straight on. Now what I find when I do these things, after about 40 miles, my bottom starts to ache, and it feels like it's been spanked, and it just doesn't stop until the end. It's awful. And so that's when the ride becomes psychological. You really have to kind of like get your mind into focus. So most of these people, they just, I know how they feel. They're not laughing or joking. They're just concentrating the whole ride. And this section here, I knew was going to be the most difficult and there would be the most suffering. So that's why I picked to come here. As I said, I was here for nearly 3 hours, but unfortunately my battery packed in. I didn't charge it. I didn't expect it to be so kind of like so gripping and fascinating. Just watching people cycle up this steep hill, it was just, I really felt for them, but it was really hypnotic, and you couldn't look away. It was just cool. It's so cool. Gradually, there was like a peak mid-morning, and you could start to tell that the people who were at the back were, they were doing it for their first time, and they had that glazed look of pain in their faces, and they barely looked at me or acknowledged me. And what you don't see here is there was a lot of people walking this section because it was vicious. It was nasty. Because most of the people are not locals, they don't know when it's going to end. It's here, you can see here, this guy, he wasn't the only one. There were lots of people walking, and more as the morning went on. So when I came back up this way, I kind of like stopped here, and I was watching people, and I had to help at least half a dozen people who had fallen off, because they just kind of like just were cycling, and they just so exhausted. And they couldn't get their feet out the clips, and they just fell on their sides. And so I went and helped them and helped their bikes until they got sorted, and gave them a bit of encouragement and told them that they were nearly at the top. I've lived in Dorking, Surrey area all my life, and I've never been up this climb. I have done the Dorking, the Surrey Heart rides in previous years, and normally it goes the other way, which is the easier climb up from the A25 up to Leith Hill, which is a much easier climb. It's longer, but the gradient's much nicer. Now this way is coming up from the south, from Forest Green Ockley way, and it's almost a straight road the whole way up. There's no zigzags. It's a much harder ride than the Box Hill, which has nice gradients. This is a very tough climb, and I've never actually done it, although I've gone the other way. And normally I come up where you see the roads on the right hand side. If I come up from the south side, I come up a little kind of like a single track road, which is this road here, which I know is 12%, and even I have to walk some of that bits because that road is a bit, it's not perfectly tarmacked, but it's safer, and I don't like the traffic on this road normally because this is the main B road over Leith Hill. So gradually, as more and more people came, more and more people were starting to walk this section. They would come around this corner here, they would look up and see it ramping up round the corner, and basically they would lose heart. And who can blame them? Because the section down below is steep as well. So it destroys your spirit and your soul. So that road on the left there, that's the road to Cold Harbour, which goes down round the south side of Leith Hill, and I can highly recommend it. I think it's an exquisite ride, and I've done it many times, because then the road goes beyond Cold Harbour back down to Dorking. It's quite a climb. It's probably as tricky as this one, because it ramps up and then it goes down a little bit and then it ramps up again, so it's a testing climb, but it's exquisite countryside, and this whole area is really nice. I think this route they do for the Olympics and today, they only cut through Leith Hill section here, and they should really cut, and then they go on the A25 down to Dorking through Westcott, which is okay, but it's not as nice as going through the hills. There's much nicer roads I've only done this ride once, but I got the train to Chilworth, and you zigzag through the hills back to Dorking via Winterfold Wood, which is absolutely beautiful, and then down Pitch Hill to Pease Lake, and then back up around up the hill to Holmbury St Mary, which is another stunning section, and then you can go up to from Holmbury St Mary up to Leith Hill, and then back round here, and then to Cold Harbour and back to Dorking. It's a terrific ride, although very testing, because it's up and down the Surrey Hills. It's a beautiful ride. I really recommend it. Anyway, I was gradually working my way down, because this is the main junction here, and I got just to the edge of the verge down here, because it ran out eventually, the verge, and I couldn't go any further because it was just people were just all over the road, and you couldn't walk without crashing into somebody. And people were crashing more and more, because what would happen is people would they would grind to a halt, and there were so many people, somebody would just crash into them. People were kind of like almost, gibbering. So I had to stay off the road because it was risky, because people were just as the morning went on, then the less stronger riders were coming through, and they were finding this climb really tough. Hope you're not getting too bored with all this, because it's just endless bikers. There were quite a lot of women. The film here makes it look as though there weren't many women on the course, but there were more. And I saw one woman, this is true, I saw this woman, I was not on the film. She was riding up one-handed on the steepest section, and she was texting. How cool was that? By now I was kind of like getting regrets that I wasn't on the ride myself. I did think about doing it, and I don't know how much it costs. I think it costs quite a bit to do the ride. It's normally the ones I do with bike events are about £20, and it's all marshalled. But there's only like about 2,000 people do it, and I prefer less people. And I've never ridden like the London Brighton, which is like this, where you have thousands and thousands of people. So I'm not that comfortable with people riding so close to me all the time. I love doing the Salisbury 100, and there's usually about 2,000 people, as I said, and I do it in about just over 8 hours. And normally when I get back to the car park's about half empty. So I'm kind of like mid-range, very average rider. And as I said, the rides they are psychological, and I can only do one a year, literally, because it just hurts so much. And but you know, I do regret not being there today. It looked like a really special day, and you know, it is a nice feeling when you get to the end of 100 miles and some people clap you, and you've achieved something and out of the ordinary, because not everybody can do it, and because it is difficult. So my respects to all the riders who went out today and did it, because it was hard. It was a hard course. I've just remembered I got my Brighton 100 film from about 3 years. That's the last one I did, and oh, that nearly destroyed me going up Devil's Dyke, the last 5 miles. So that's very similar to this. It's just it just psychologically just destroys your spirit. So I know how much these people suffered. But I did suffer going up on the mountain bike, because it takes me an hour up across country, and it's not an easy climb. And so I did do my fair share of suffering today. Anyway, that's nearly the end of the film. I hope you enjoyed the movie, and apparently the riders are get on for next year. So maybe I might be riding next year. I really should, shouldn't I?